we've spent a lot of time visiting offices, like when we first graduated, and then in our associateships now, we always are looking and seeing what feels right, where can we create the best sort of environment for people to get well. So it's been a work of process in our brains for the last 5 years. But I mean, when we actually were like, okay, we're going to do this practice, we had tape all over our living room. We were designing it like in our living room for months.
Hey all, this is Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life Chiropractic College West, and welcome to another edition of our Life by Life West. I am thrilled to be here. We've got a couple that are with us that are just an amazing couple who are doing amazing things in Edmonton, Alberta. And I want to welcome my wife, Dr. Mary Oberstein, my co-host, my partner in life and health, and our editor, producer, tells me when to start the recordings, all that kind of stuff, right? I want to welcome you. Hi, Mary. Good to see you.
Hi, you too.
Awesome. And I want to welcome Dr. Daryn and Dr. Claire Rainer. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Life by Life West.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We're stoked to be here.
Absolutely. I feel like we've done this before. Let me tell our audience a little bit about Dr. Daryn and Dr. Claire. First of all, they're 2018 Life West graduates, met in school halfway through, 7 out of 14 quarters they met. Dr. Daryn is from Edmonton, Alberta in Canada. Dr. Claire is from Fort Bragg, California. And we had a Canadian and an American meet. Imagine that. And they ended up, usually the Canadians want to come to the US, this was opposite. Claire ended up going up to Canada, took about 9 months or so. So Dr. Claire did an associateship in Idaho while all the paperwork was going through. Dr. Daryn had an associateship also. Then obviously, they've gotten together, married 18 months ago. And then they just started, they have a newborn, meaning their practice right now. I'm sure they'll be fruitful and multiply in life as we move on, but they have a newborn in their practice called Rise Family Chiropractic, and just doing amazing things, which we're going to get into. They come from very different backgrounds, and it's just going to be very, very cool of how we hit it. I'm just thrilled to move through it. So very cool. And I got to tell you both, I mean, as students, you were here when I got here, and I got here in 2016. I think you guys are probably like in your first year, maybe ending your first year. And I just really want you to know you really helped my transition. And people don't realize that I had to look toward the students to, not for validation any means, but to get feedback and to be able to do that. And Daryn, we would always speak. And Claire, you were that heartfelt person who just really, your love was just showing everywhere. And I would ask you guys questions when I'd see you, more for my feedback, to get feedback. I wouldn't think that you were a part of a focus group, but I would use you guys intentionally, seek you out, just because I knew that I would get honest answers, and that's what I needed, not just, yeah. So I never told you that probably, but I just want you to know that's just my truth around it. So I'm thrilled to have you here. And we've been trying to get this done for I don't know how long. We were together in Edmonton in July. And so if we count the months now, it's been months, but it finally worked out for your schedule. And we are just thrilled. So, and listen, I think Mary, how we want to start, right, is we usually start by asking, how'd you get into chiropractic? How did chiropractic find you? Because we know that's what happens. Chiropractic finds us. Dr. Claire, share your story.
I was one of those people who didn't know anything about chiropractic. And my journey in life, my undergrad degree is in sociology. So I thought I was going to get into therapy and marriage and family counseling. I knew that I wanted to serve people. And then I was actually on my path to get my master's in social work. And I met Eric McKillican's daughter working at Starbucks. And she was reading the Green Books. And I was like, what are you reading? What are you doing? And she told me that her and her sisters, she told me about their life and the lifestyle that they were living. And that's what I was really intrigued by. She said that they had never taken a Tylenol a day in their life. And I was like, what? And she would talk about the power that made the body heals the body. Like she was giving me all these chiropractic principles and they just really spoke to my heart. And so I was like, I have to go to your dad's practice. I have to see what this chiropractic thing is all about. And I walked through the doors and it was full of moms and babies and people that were just like vibrating. They were just full of life. And I literally left that office. I got into my car, called my mom crying. I was like, Mom, I found the thing. I found the thing that I'm going to do to help people. And I never looked back. I applied to Life West and I was there within a few months. It really
did you check out other schools?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
They said Life West. Well, Eric was teaching here.
Yeah, exactly.
Still is. But he would get, wow. Did you get it? Did you start under care at all, or just literally just said, I'm going to Life West and came over here?
That was it.
Wow.
I'd never been adjusted before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that.
That is great.
Chiropractic found you. Wow.
It really did.
Daryn, Dr. Daryn.
Yeah. Well, so excited to be here. You know, my story's a bit different. I tried to fight the calling a little bit. I had, we started under chiropractic. I was probably 10 or 11 years old and started under care with the McDonald's up in Edmonton, which are, a fantastic brother and sister practicing together at that point in time. And it slowly changed our worldview. It helped a lot with, posture and discomfort. And I was always the tall kid in the class. So I had, crammed into little desks. I had a bruised back and growing pains, and chiropractic just changed the game on those things. And as we were growing up as teenagers and stuff, we noticed, we were a little bit healthier than our peers. And my sister got off her chronic antibiotics as a kid and stuff like that. Right. And so it became our go-to from a prevention standpoint. Like I would go in and get adjusted before exam time. It's like, hey, doc, exams are coming out, get my head on straight. I want to get A's, and it just innately, we knew it made a huge difference. And I really valued the care that we received. And so I knew, like, at the end of high school, I wanted to be a chiropractor, and I looked into it and I thought, man, 8 years and hundreds of thousands, no way. Right. I want to have a life before I'm 25. Yeah. And so I went into business. I knew I wanted to run a small business, and I was always kind of interested in that world. And business school was a great experience. There, learned a lot and grew a lot on stuff like that. But it just wasn't meant to be. I wasn't meant to be an accountant. So I kind of got pulled down that route and had some really incredible opportunities, but they just weren't me. And I remember one weekend I'd been kind of sick on and off for months, but for no good reason. And one weekend I was just really sick and like achy and sore and like, what is going on? This isn't the flu. Like, I don't know. And I couldn't sleep. And the chiropractor came in and adjusted me on a Sunday of all things. And I went home, I slept for 4 hours, but literally in the middle of side posture, it clicked. And I knew I had to do that. And the next weekend I was in the mountains skiing, which is usually when I can find peace. And I just kept thinking about chiropractic. And I think 2 weeks after that, I had quit my job and had a plan to move to California. So couldn't ignore the calling.
Wow. You're just a little more stubborn. That's all.
Yeah. Yes. Got to be told a few times.
The signs are there. You just kept saying, mate, not now, not now. Well, thank God you didn't get really like hit over the head with a hammer to.
Right.
He had to wait so that we could start at the same time.
Yes. There's no mistakes, right?
No mistakes.
That is so true.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, I want to jump in. I want to jump right and start talking about your practice, because it's a new practice, 5-month-old, right? And I know that you focus on pediatrics, kids. And there's a reason why I'm asking this first question. But who comes in first in the office? In the family, it's a family practice. Who's the first patient in the family, typically?
Yeah. It's been really cool seeing this in the new office. It's primarily the kiddos. So people are starting by bringing in their baby or toddler or teenager. And then mom starts under care. And then eventually dad starts under care. So we've really geared our office to be super family friendly. And I mean, it screams pediatrics, pregnancy, and it's a comfortable space for those populations. And it's been fun to see that shift a bit from our associateships. We still had our pediatrics training and loved seeing those populations, but that's really, really growing and shifting with the new office.
I was going to say, I have a follow-up question. How are people hearing about you to know to bring their children to you?
Well, we spent a lot of energy in building out our Instagram. So that's where we get to share what it is that we do. And we know that that's where moms are. So we tried to figure out like, where are the moms at? What are they scrolling through? Because we know they're scrolling. So we wanted to be a part of their search. And we always give the message of like hope and healing and transformation and change and the nervous system. And we know that those are like buzzwords out there right now. And so we feel like, oh my gosh, this is what a great time for us to be opening, you know, when the nervous system is for some reason gaining some traction in the world. So it's so perfect that we get to speak to that and be like, this is what we do. You should be here. Let us serve you.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, you know, we've been in practice up here, more than 4 years before the practice opened. And so we've got those relationships. Like we know midwives and lactation consultants and doulas and stuff. And so we just had to remind them and tell them where we're transitioning to, right? And so we're seeing those, you know, cross referrals trickling in as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So your avatar was very clear, right? Or avatars were very clear as far as, you know, who your model patient was, you know, and exactly what you wanted to create. You know, when you then created the environment, because, you know, you can't create your avatars without having an environment that matches, right? So when you created your environment, where was the inspiration? Like, you know, Claire, were you all over Instagram, just, you know, looking and seeing stuff, and who was the designer, you know, out of the two of you? Like who was that right brain kind of, you know, like I want this here and this here, or was it both of you, or how'd that work?
Well, you know, I feel like the vision for our practice started when we met in school, and we knew someday that we would practice together. So, I mean, just we've spent a lot of time visiting offices, like when we first graduated, and then in our associateships now, we always are looking and seeing what feels right, where can we create the best sort of environment for people to get well. So it's been a work of process in our brains for the last 5 years. But I mean, when we actually were like, okay, we're going to do this practice, we had tape all over our living room. We were designing it like in our living room for months. So it definitely was both of us, I would say, in terms of the design piece of it. Maybe the aesthetics was a bit more me, but yeah, it was definitely something we both put our heads and hearts together to create.
I love it. And what would both of you, I want to ask you both this question. What would you say for you, and there's a lot of beautiful things in your office, but what would be the one defining piece in your office that you just love, you know, that really screams to you individually, you know, the avatar, you know, that and spreads that to the avatar? What would you say that is?
I'm going to go first. It's our kids zone. We've got a little kitchen in there, and I like to joke it's one of the busiest restaurants in Spruce Grove, you know, because it's just a hit, you know. So we've got, you know, tomatoes in the adjusting area and you know, wooden toy. Like it's just, it's very clear when you walk in the door. It's bright. So light was a big piece of it, making sure it's bright and clean and modern. But like the kids zone is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same. And we have like a little hospitality station, and we wanted to make sure that we had snacks and water and the things that, like, if kids are coming after school, we want to mitigate any sort of like, you know, blockages to their ability to come and get adjusted. Like we really were thinking ahead, like how can we make sure that when a mom comes in here and she's stressed out and her kid needs a snack, we got her. Like we thought of that, right? So that was really important for us.
And that is key, Mary. You know, it's like our kids, you know, we'd pick them up at school, and the first thing they wanted, they just needed something to eat. Yes. I mean, they just wanted to go to Rose Donuts, you know, and they ate healthy, but they wanted if they went there once, they couldn't get that out of their mind. And I love that they can, you know, I just, as days go on, as months go on, as years goes on, they're probably going to stop by the office and just say, hey, we don't have you on the books. And then, no, we're just getting a snack, right? And the kids are saying, we got to go to Rise Family Chiropractic just to get something to eat on our way home, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, and in our practice, that was my favorite part of our practice was we called it the kids pit, but it was the kids area. And behind it, somebody built painted a big tree, and we spent way too much money to have someone construct this metal thing that hung on it. And then we took pictures of all the kids that came in and put them on leaves and hung their leaves. but everyone who walked in, the first thing they thought was kids. But it's interesting because I asked you that question at the beginning. I don't know if it's just how far chiropractic has come, but when Ron and I were practicing, we had a family practice. And I used to say, how do you have just a kids practice? Because in our practice, the parents came in first, and then we talked to them about chiropractic, and they brought their kids in. And it's funny because now your practice is the opposite, which I love that. That was my dream 30 years ago, was like, someday I just want people to bring, and we had a few of those, right? But I just want people to bring the kids in first. And I'm sure a lot of it is how you're telling the story and how you're educating. And can you speak to that just a little bit for our viewers of like how I mean, obviously it's with Instagram, but I'm guessing too, it's just from like the first visit or even prior to that, of how you're educating people to really tell the chiropractic story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a work in progress, right? We've got all these dreams and plans and initiatives underway right now for building out education, because it can always be better, right? You can be planting those seeds differently and subtly. But for us, it starts like right on our website's very clear. Instagram's very clear on what to expect. So if people want to feel us out, they know what to expect. And if they call us to book or whether they book online, it tells them again what to expect. And our team follows up and says, hey, here's what your first visit is going to look like. Expect to spend 50 minutes in the office. Our goal's 40, right? But we want to give that buffer room, And the doctors are, going to sit you down, walk through a history. We're going to run some really cool scans on your nervous system that tell us where you're holding stress, where things are working well, and how we can best support you. And so they explain to people what they're going to be getting, and then when they show up in the office, it's a smooth transition that way. Yeah. And so the second visit is where we sit down with people and we go through everything, and we tie in our scans to their goals and to their life and into their care plan recommendations. And then it becomes a partnership from there. And then that's the fun part, right? Time to rock and roll at that point.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. But with your messaging that you're doing, because obviously if you're attracting kids in first, there's messaging going out that is like, you are a pediatric center, so to speak, or pediatric chiropractic, right? And, anybody obviously who brings their children in and trust any doctor or any person with their child, if it's good enough for my child, then it's more than good enough for me, right? Kind of deal, right? Because we'd only give our kids the best. How are you doing testimonials? Are you doing how are you utilizing Instagram on that level to let people know what the message is? That's number one. And the second part to the question is, you talked about experience, right? And what is the main components of the experience that you want people to have in the practice? Not just what it is, but how do you put that through? What's your intentional efforts to make that come through? So the first thing is, what are you doing specifically to educate on Instagram, whatever? What's the messaging you're using?
Well, I think, one of the biggest things that I recognize is that people don't understand pediatric chiropractic, right? And when they think kids and they think chiropractic, sometimes their brain is like, oh God, what? So my intention when I'm creating our Instagram is how can I ease their mind and knowing that what we're doing is really gentle, really specific, and really, really, truly about the nervous system. Because a lot of times people aren't making the connection with chiropractic and how it can serve any human on the planet. So that's my intention, is how can I let them know that pediatric chiropractic is not scary, and that everybody with the nervous system deserves to get it checked. Yeah. So that's the messages that I'm always weaving. And I want them to see that our office is fun and that people are smiling and that we are it's a joyful place to be. So that's one of the biggest intentions I have when I'm creating the things that I post on our Instagram. And then the same thing with the environment of our office, right? I love when people walk in and they're like, am I in the right place? Is this a doctor's office? Yes. It's fun. It's bright. The music is great. The energy is loud and chaotic sometimes. And we designed it that way. We want it to be that way because we want moms to walk in and be like, oh, good. I don't have to keep my kid quiet. And that, yes, they can run around and there is toys for them and there is snacks for them. And this is a place where families come. And that really speaks for it. We have cozy chairs and every single thing that we did in our office, we thought about it and said, is this going to speak family? our family's going to come here and they're going to say, I'm meant to be here. I belong here. And that's what we did.
I love it. I love the intention.
I want to come see your practice.
Anytime.
Just hang out, right? Hold babies, right?
Yes.
Daryn, speak to the second question, like the experience, because you mentioned that earlier. What is the experience, and how did you? Dr. Claire just said intentionally, like how you're making certain things happen like that. But what is the experience? You mentioned that the email that they get or whatever it is, that kind of thing. Because are people being, do you weed people out? Are you getting people that come in? I guess with intentional, marketing and not even marketing, just with an intentional thought of this is who we want to take care of, right? Obviously people aren't going to come in bringing reptiles, right? How do you separate? And are you losing people? Not losing, but are you shifting people to other chiropractors because they don't fit your avatar?
Yeah, exactly. Our team is trained on explaining everything well and answering questions and educating a little bit where it's needed. But like if somebody calls in and, their low back's killing them and they need to get adjusted today, we're not the office for them. Like it's unlikely that we can make that work. Maybe we can get them in the morning, get them back in the afternoon to have a proper report. But our structure is our structure for a reason, because it's valuable, it's thorough, it educates them. And it gives us the opportunity to tell them what they deserve to hear, right? And from that point, what they decide to do with it is up to them. Yeah. But we are absolutely, like, on a regular basis, I don't know how often during the course of a week we send people to other chiropractic offices, because they're dead set on this is what I need. This is how it needs to look. And we're not the office for them in that case, right? So our team's trained, to plant seeds and educate on why we do things the way we do. And if they're interested in that, fantastic. Sometimes those people will call us back after they visit another office and they'll come into ours, which has been really cool. A couple of times that's happened in the last few months. But we send them where they think they need to be, if they're that certain about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that there's no like this, like, oh, I got to have every single one. It's so contracting when you squeeze like this, instead of just being open and, carry so much more sand in your hand like this than trying to squeeze it, I love it. I love it.
And it's more fun. It's more fun to practice when you have people in there that are the right fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson we learned in our associateships. When you bend over backwards and you bend the rules for people, it usually doesn't work out in anybody's favor, right? Then you're not on the same page. They don't get the experience they deserve. They're more in the driver's seat versus it being a fair partnership, right? Yeah. So we've come a long way with that. And we're grateful for that.
Yeah.
Well, that one lesson that you learned already took me about 15 years to learn. When I realized I'd be driving home after adjusting a lot of people and I'd be focused on the one person that was stressful that day. And it was usually somebody who, like, when I really looked deep inside, where I did something that I did to like please them, because I didn't want to lose them. And I thought I could save them and like turn them around. And after a while I was like, it's not fun, so.
Well, we call them black holes.
We did. They were black holes in the office.
Come in the office. Even our team did. They come in. Could be wonderful people, just not when they're not a fit.
Yeah,
they just suck the energy out, right? And it's like, it's like if we would have known earlier, just to find them somewhere else to go, like find them the right fit. It would have been so much easier in life, right? I love what you're doing. You're growing a garden that has exactly what you want in it, and you're doing your best to not let the weeds come in, right? Or other, fruits and vegetables that might not be what you want, right? It's incredible. I love it. I love it. And so when you're moving like this, there's got to be some, we've got to talk about just, planting your flag, and obviously what you're doing is you're sharing your truth, right? And saying, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. Was there give and take on that? Normally when you start a business, you just want everyone to come in, right? Tell me, how'd you navigate that?
Well, I think that we try to stay true to the principle and the vision that we have for the practice. And we don't have any scarcity around that. And we know that that if we're supporting people in being where they need to be, we're not always the best fit for people, and we're okay with that.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that definitely took us a long time to get to that place. And we're still moments where we're like, shoot, did we do the right thing? But the truth is, we want to give people the experience that they deserve and the experience of chiropractic that they deserve. And we know, like, so many times people sit across from us on our first day with them and they're like, my chiropractor never did this, or we never talked about this, or I don't know anything about the nervous system. And we're like, what? How have you been to a chiropractor for years and years and no one's ever told you about the nervous system? So we like really, really love and value the opportunity to give people this incredible experience that can change their life. And we're not willing to do any less than that. So for the people that are like, no, I only want to get adjusted here, or telling us what to do, that doesn't sit right with us. So we're happy to send them to people that maybe that's what they do, and we're good with that.
Yeah.
Because we know that creates more space for the right people that want what we have to offer and that can really, that they want to get the most out of the experience. We want to create space for them.
Yeah.
Great. So I want to pivot because I know we're coming down to the closing time. This question's for the students. They don't want to hear just like how easy it is to open a practice. So tell me what's been the biggest challenge of opening your own practice?
Yeah. It's not easy. It's intense. And especially when you care so much, right? when like we just want it to be excellent, and anything below that is not acceptable. Mm-hmm. And so it is a lot. It's a lot of hats to wear. We're grateful that we had great associateships in Canada. We learned a lot. We had decent work-life balance. We got to build our chiropractic foundation so that now, as we're putting on our business hat, we can lean on the chiropractic foundation, right? And we're not still trying to develop everything at once, right? I think a lesson for me is that you have to be adaptable. You have to have a plan. You have to have an intention, know what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. And if you don't know everything at the beginning, that's okay, as long as you're open to that clarity evolving and coming and trusting in the process. But that plan does have to be flexible, like just with opening up, we thought we were going to be open 2.5, 3 months sooner than we were. The contractors promised, and that's just not how it always falls into place. Or even when we were hiring, we hired our team before the office opened. We wanted to have 6 weeks of training time, so that they were up to speed and we could serve at a high level day one. And we weren't finding the right people. We were hitting these roadblocks and we're going, why can't we find the right team members? But really, it was the universe protecting us because of the delays with construction. We weren't ready to have the team, or we would have had them for 12 weeks. We wouldn't have known what to do with them for that long, right?
Yeah.
And then it would have gotten weird trying to give them hours, but they're kind of trained, and you can't really train more till the office is there, right? And so it all worked out perfectly. But if you're super duper attached to that plan and you're not flexible, that's where you can get into a little bit of trouble. A lesson I keep learning. You got to have a plan, but you got to bend with it and adapt.
Children will teach you that. That's
Yes.
Dr. D. That's when you meet your master. Oh, we're going up. No, we're not. It's how it works. Wow. Well, we reached that time. My gosh. I mean,
Yes, we have.
So on Life by Life West, we always ask 2 questions. This is an innate response. We just want something to come. It could be different than if we asked you the question 30 minutes ago, right? It could be different. So we're going to do this. Dr. Mary, you'll ask the first question, and then you'll just direct it, and then whoever she directs it to, the other person will just answer it second.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Dr. Daryn. Okay. With all of your vast wisdom that you've accumulated in the last 5 years, if you could go back now and speak to Daryn, the first quarter student at Life West, what advice would you give him?
First quarter. I would say trust the journey and enjoy the journey. 5 years out, I wish my grades were 5% lower and I had 5% more fun. Because chiropractic college is intense. It's busy, and especially when you're committed to being excellent, it's a lot. So we had such a great time. So I would say just enjoy it and trust that it's all going to fall into place.
So are you saying that no one ever asked you, since you've been out of school, what you got in self is?
That happens to be true. Yeah.
or your GPA, right?
Yeah.
Never once.
Okay, Dr. Claire, what advice would you give
Oh my
a
gosh.
first quarter student?
Man, I just look back and I just love her for being so brave and so courageous to take a huge life change and just go for it. But I would just tell her, similar to Dr. Daryn, but keep fun at the forefront, keep joy and love and experience, because there's always going to be things to do. The to-do list will never, we got lists all over this place that it never ends. If you're not weaving in fun and play and silliness, those are the things that really help you to get the most out of life. So I would just remind myself to keep doing those things, because like I said, the to-do list will never end, but just really squeeze the most out of life that you can.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, Dr. Claire, I'm going to ask you my question, then Dr. D, you're going to have to. Same thing, right? Where you are right now, the seat you're sitting in right now, 5 years out of school, and you're speaking to Dr. Claire, who just graduated yesterday. What words of advice would you give her?
Oh my gosh. I would tell her to remember that she is enough, and that she is capable, and that people will trust her, and that, she is capable of carrying the bigness of being a chiropractor. I think that was, gosh, because in those early days, you're like, I feel like I know nothing. I still feel like I know nothing, even though I just walked the stage and I have this doctor in front of my name. But just keep going and keep trusting and knowing that, you were given this path for a reason, and that people are ready to receive you. So you're enough, and keep going.
Love it.
Great answer. Dr.
Daryn?
Trust the journey. It's a windy road, but it's the way it needs to be, from the deviation in business school that's serving our practice now. Right. And we started together because of that. And the plan we had on the day we graduated was very different than how it shook out. And it's been fantastic. So trust the journey. I think we're given the training that we need to serve at a high level, if that's what you're open to and looking for.
Yeah. I don't remember who spoke at your graduation. Do you remember who your commencement speaker was?
Yeah.
Was it Irene Gold?
No.
Cliff something?
Oh, Cliff Hardick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. From Toronto, from London.
Yeah.
From London, Ontario. We had to have a Canadian for you guys, obviously. But the reason why I brought that up was I remember when I love your answers, by the way. They were just beautiful. And I remember when Irene spoke and when she did the commencement address, and she looked out the audience and said, you have everything you need. Mm-hmm. You've learned from the college everything you need to go out and do what you need to do. Keep learning, but you have everything you need. And, and I love that I'm seeing that with what you're creating right now, because you guys are, and it's incredible. So thank you. Thank you both for being with us. And thank you for sharing your hearts and your wisdom on our Life by Life West.
Thank you. What a privilege. We enjoyed this chat.
We'll do a part 2 or part 3, but as the Rise family grows and grows and grows, right?
Love it.
Internally and externally. And thank you, Dr. Mary, for just, always being my co-pilot on these. These are awesome. And allowing me to be your co-pilot, because it certainly is awesome. And thank you to our audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and week out. As you know, we drop these every other week, and on the opposite weeks, we drop a Life West leadership line. And without you guys sharing this and spreading this and giving it to others, they wouldn't be growing, and they are growing at a beautiful clip. And we'll keep bringing them as long as it's needed and as long as you want them. The people that we bring on, like Dr. Claire and Dr. Daryn, their message that they dropped was just incredible. The pearls of wisdom, and you'll have to kind of listen to it a second time to keep going deeper into it. But just know this, and please, share it with those that you feel is appropriate, because there are people out there who are thinking about going to start a practice. Maybe they don't have the practice they like. They're not having fun in their practice. Well, it's who they're attracting. It's what they have set up, right? And so they can kind of get tuned in and be able to kind of see. And then we'll put the Rise website, Rise Family Chiropractic website down. You can go in and view it, and definitely follow them on Instagram and be able to just kind of get more information just to kind of see where we're going. But I want to leave you with a message that, for all of us, and, and Dr. Claire kind of touched on it, that we are far greater than we were ever led to believe when we were growing up. And we have to keep that in mind, and that the body is far greater and more powerful than we were ever led to believe. And that's why chiropractic works so well. So thank you for being with us. Until we come at you again for another time, for Dr. Daryn, Dr. Claire, and Dr. Mary, myself will bid you adieu, and know that we love and appreciate all that you do for the world, and let's create a brighter future for humanity. See you later.